Aiden, myself, and Stephen is joining us via Teams. Got a pretty short agenda, so we'll go right into it and start with our Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, first up, we have our minutes for October 20th, 2025. Trust you guys have taken a look at those, and if they all look good, we'll need a motion to approve them.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as posted.
I'll second.
Hey, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written. Any discussion on that? We'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion carries. All right, Commissioners report. Kyle, go ahead.
So we've, I guess the city guys, they've been trying to get a few seasonal items done. One of them, been going around flushing hydrants, flushing sewer mains as well. We made pretty good progress so far. I would say they should be able to wrap them up the rest of this week. In regards to the lift pump at the shop, that got replaced. That's operational now. We had a few issues with some curb stops around town. Some got addressed. Other than that, there was I'm not sure whether it was a piece of equipment that struck the stoplight out on Highway 2 or if the winds turned it, one of the lights. But Kirk, he made a phone call, and the guy that fixes them when he's around the area, he'll stop and get that repaired. Like I said, it just turned, so it's hard to see the light when you're sitting there. It's still functioning, it just turned. We were up on 13th Street there with the new development for Annabelle. Did some investigative stuff regarding the water and sewer drains up there. That's all I got.
Pretty quiet on my end. Haven't really worked on anything new this week. Just still trying to finalize the 2026 holiday schedule. Probably should have an answer for that at the next meeting. Other than that, quiet this week.
Kind of same for me. Our staff has made my life super easy this reporting period, so I'm not going to bore you with some of those smaller details, but like I said, they've made my life really, really easy, and I don't have much to report tonight. Go ahead, Stephen.
So as far as the lagoons going, I am working on talking to a couple companies and reaching out to a few other cities to see who they use and what their thoughts are. So hopefully by the next meeting, I can either have a yes on a couple of the companies and we can go from there. Besides that, everything else has been pretty quiet.
Okay. All right, moving on to modification or approval of the agenda. How does it look to you guys? Do you have anything you want to add? Okay.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as posted.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as written, and we'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 Motion carries. All right, old business number one, legal, Liz.
I'm here. Let's see if there we are. If my camera will come on. Good evening, everyone. I too am going to be somewhat short tonight. The major point that I wanted to just bring to your attention this evening, you'll recall, I think it was last meeting, I discussed that there had been some scheduling discussions regarding the streets lawsuit. The principal defendant in that case, the city is the plaintiff, the principal defendant is Terraflex. They have joined another party. I told you all that, Keller Paving, as a result of the series of depots that we did. In any case, because Keller is now another third-party defendant to the action, that has changed some deadlines. That in and of itself is fine. We have scheduled what is called a scheduling conference on November 13th. We just confirmed the date and time slot this morning with the court. Nothing has moved as far as a trial date. But the reality is that if Keller sticks as a defendant, and I anticipate they will, or a third-party defendant, the trial date that we currently have will move. I mean, the court will probably have to do that in order to afford them due process. It's frustrating, but you know, the law is the law, and fair is fair, and that is what it is. In any case, it's not a decision I expect you gentlemen to make this evening. But if the trial date should move, I want you all to start considering the possibility of exploring a rebid of what that would cost and look like to return the streets to the condition that we bargained for, right? That we didn't get, that we bargained for in advance of the conclusion of litigation. And the reason I would like you to start considering that, but don't necessarily need even an immediate decision on that, is because our current trial date is scheduled for March. That's why we didn't object to the first continuance. Initially, it was in September of this year. It was moved to March of 2026 by stipulation. That was fine because we would have had a conclusion before construction was commenced for that season. If the trial date moves again, I have every expectation that we would be overstepping another construction season, and there's no reason to do that. I don't want to get too much into legal strategy, but it would be fair to say that if we just undertake the rebid and construction ourselves, that would also afford us a pretty clear view of what damages are, right? I mean, we would know what it was going to cost to make the repairs because we would have made them by the time trial rolled around, or at least had a bid indicating what the market was going to demand to make them in our judgment. So again, I don't ever want to rule out the possibility of settlement. The trial date hasn't moved. I think it's likely based on process matters that have transpired. And I know people are very tired of living on roller coaster road. I know the commission is tired on their behalf of having that street in the city. So mull that around. If you have questions, you guys can contact me directly. I don't want to put too much detail out there because we are in active litigation. But I think that could, well, it's not my preference. I think that's probably where at least a point of discussion we need to consider to avoid additional delay in those streets. So there are some ins and outs that I think would be better to speak with you each about individually. And we'll probably include Josh Reiner or an engineering firm at a minimum in our discussions. But I wanted to kind of just throw that out there for your consumption. I will also have an update about what the trial date may or may not be after November 13th, which I'll follow up at the next meeting. That should be better known to me as a result of the scheduling conference on the 13th, if it moves at all, but I do expect it will. I don't really have anything else to put out there this evening, gentlemen. It's been, I won't say unduly busy. I think things are running absolutely wonderful in the city. It's just a busy and lively place. So there are a few things that I know everybody's been working on. And I will also note that I'll just be handy if anything comes up for our on-call policy discussions this evening. I know that Brett has spent a lot of time sorting that. I appreciate that. And I'll be handy to assist with any point on that discussion that may arise. So I think that's all I have to share this evening.
Okay, thanks, Liz. Guys, do
No
you have any
problem.
questions?
I just have one question. I don't know if we can talk about it or not, but if we make any forward steps in that direction about getting estimate, getting, fixing, I mean, are we tying our hands that we have to foot the bill and we're not going to get ever reimbursed, or how's that go? Can we talk
No.
about that or not?
Yeah, we can talk about that. I'm comfortable with that. And if there's any point in the conversation that I'm not comfortable with, I'll just, I'll leave it and I'll call you later, Kyle. But no, I think that's okay to talk about. That's a very good question and one that I mulled over in my mind. And the answer is flatly no. I don't think that disadvantages us, and I'll tell you why. there were two reasons actually that we just didn't take that course from the get-go, because we could have, because there's extensive damage. We paid for a new road. The road we got was not in the condition promised. One of the reasons we didn't immediately undertake that step is because we actively believed at the time, based on the defendant that existed then, and even the third-party defendant, who we pretty promptly came to know would be pled in by our defendant, our prime contractor, Terraflex. We were actively involved in settlement negotiations that we thought, and I'm not going to overshare by using numbers or making disclosures, but we thought that there would be funds from those contractors, probably by virtue of their insurance, that would cover the totality of those repairs and a redo of the project. Kyle, I'll be willing to explain to you in another location, just between us, what got in the way of that kind of. I don't want to do that of record. But there were a couple of hiccups that occurred there that made that very probable settlement and very rapid conclusion fly out the window. So we were close, and it was no cigar, and that delay created essentially that continuance. That first trial date, we never thought we would need, to be honest with you. We thought that would resolve before we ever had a trial, because of the settlement dialogue that was going on between the parties very quickly into the litigation, and even before the litigation was commenced, actually. We thought we would have it settled without a lawsuit, and that just didn't pan out. But the other reason we didn't do that was because there were a couple of different opinions, that would be known, and I think that, in fact, that might be in the public record even, about the scope of the work. It's fair to say, because it'll be said, and it's already been said, that the city's view of the scope of the work is that it needs to be redone. Not that it needs to be patched. Those are all things that we're not willing to accept, because that would impair the longevity of the project and materially change what we bargained for. But, in trying to reach a settlement, we were also trying to consider, how do we accomplish that end to the city's satisfaction, reach a quick settlement, and get the scope of work that we want, while reducing the cost in getting it. And utilizing the initial contractor to do that may have yielded that result. At this point, though, frankly, I don't care if we use the original contractor. I don't care if they agree with our scope of work assessment, as long as we have a reliable and expert scope of work that explains how we make that repair. And I think we do. I'm satisfied that we do. So that's a really long way to say that I'm never 100% certain of anything, but I am very confident that merely redoing the project at this point on a bid, we would have to bid it. That was an expensive project. That we would use that as proof of our damages, Kyle. We would say, here's the tab, here's what we paid. We know what the contract price was, right? We know what we paid the first time, and here's what we've had to pay to redo this. And so we use that math to prove up our damages in court. It would no longer be speculative, right? We know what it is. And we would notice the other parties formally of that work. And that's been discussed amongst legal counsel. That I can tell you. I'm not going to go into details, but that's a very high probability, because we have citizens that are rightly completely ticked off that this is taking so long to get remedied. They understand that. If they need to do any testing, do their own investigation, they would certainly have an opportunity to do that, so it won't impede those aspects of the suit. But no, I don't think that is, I don't think that just getting the work done, given the length of time that we've been without it, would be a disadvantage from a litigation standpoint at all. But that's a very good question, and one that I've considered. So.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, Jaden, any questions on that? No. Liz, I think we're good.
Perfect. Thank you, gentlemen. I'll hang over here.
Thank you. All right, moving on to new business. We have a candidate for a community center full-time position. So what I've got in front of me is a request for approval to hire. We have a candidate or an applicant by the name of Kelsey Daffin. This would be for the community center assistant. You guys see the proposed starting salary and the hourly rate. It's 20.44 an hour, 42,515.20 is the salary, so we would like approval to hire pending background and all those prerequisites for employment.
I'll make a motion to approve the request to hire for Kelsey Daffin as a community center assistant. As long as all the, pre-hire conditions are met.
Full-time position.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the hire of Kelsey Daffin for our community center assistant. That's a full-time position. Any discussion on that? No? Okay, we'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion carries. New business number 3, this is a Williams County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan resolution. Liz, I don't think that you have this in front of you. You'll have to confirm if you do or don't. If you don't, I can muddle my way through reading it.
I do think I have that in front of me, and let me just pop over to that file, maybe. Don't swear me to that. Give me 2 seconds. Here we are. I don't know that I have the current version, Brett. Wendy did send me one to review. We had some brief conversations about it meeting before last, but I don't have the most recent version. I don't believe so. You might have to muddle through. I think you're right.
Bad news, guys, you're stuck with me. Seatbelts on. All right, so this is a Williams County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan dated October 2025. This is resolution number 2025-03. So a resolution of local government adopting the Williams County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan of October 2025. Whereas the city of Tioga recognizes the threat that natural hazards posed to people and property within the city of Tioga. And whereas the local government has prepared a multi-hazard mitigation plan, hereby known as the Williams County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan 2025, in accordance with federal laws, including the Robert T. Sanford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, as amended, the National Flood Insurance Act of 1968, as amended, and the National Dam Safety Program Act, as amended. And whereas the Williams County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan 2025 identifies mitigation goals and actions to reduce or eliminate long-term risk to people and property and local government from the impacts of future hazards and disasters. And whereas adoption by the city of Tioga demonstrates its commitment to hazard mitigation and achieving the goals outlined in the Williams County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan October 2025. Now therefore be it resolved by the local government that Section 1, in accordance with the local rule for adopting resolutions, the local governing body adopts the Williams County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan 2025. While content related to local government, that's us, may require revisions to meet the plan approval requirements, changes occurring after adoption will not require the city of Tioga to re-adopt any further iterations of the plan. Subsequent plan updates following the approval period for this plan will require separate adoption resolutions. So if that's agreeable to you guys, we'll need a motion to approve resolution 2025-03.
I make a motion to approve the resolution number 2025-03.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2025-03. Any discussion on that? Okay, we'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 The motion carries. New business number 4 is an on-call policy. Guys, we just simply do not have an on-call policy. We've always followed like on-call policy for procedure / guidelines, but we've never had anything in writing stating like this is our policy. So you got a couple options here. They are like in kind. The only difference is for compensation for on-call duty. Do we want to call it option A and B, Wendy? Let's call option A, just for being on call, non-compensable. So that would read, non-exempt employees who are on call are not significantly restricted in their personal activities and will not be compensated. What it boils down to is if you are scheduled to be on call, you won't be compensated just for being on call. Regardless if you get called out or not, you're just not going to get that base rate. Policy, we'll call it B, would be non-exempt employees who are on call will be compensated for a half hour for every 3 hours on call at a rate of 1.5 times their regular hourly wage. Hours worked in excess of on-call time during that scheduled period will be paid at the regular time, subject to overtime hours as applicable. So essentially that one is if you are scheduled to be on call, you will be compensated a rate. Obviously, half hour for every 3 hours. We'll call it 3 hours for every 12 hours for being on call. So just two different trains of thought, but we need to adopt one or the other. Math is poor. 2 hours for every 12 hours.
So then, option B, does that mean you're readily available to go into work at any time?
So it would be your response time. The expectation for response would be upon receiving a call, the employee must acknowledge the request and if necessary, be prepared to respond and report to the designated work site within 60 minutes. Response time may vary depending on the specific job requirements. Tell you what, guys, do you want me to just read through this? I'm kind of in reading mode anyway.
I would appreciate that.
All right, so the policy statement. The City of Tioga requires certain employees to be available for on-call duty to respond to business needs outside of their regularly scheduled work hours. The purpose of this policy is to define the terms of on-call scheduling and compensation. So eligibility, this policy applies to all non-exempt employees assigned to an on-call schedule. The eligibility and specific requirements for on-call duty are determined by management. So for on-call scheduling, on-call schedules will be communicated to the affected employees at least 1 week in advance. The schedule will specify the on-call period, typically a consecutive block of time. The duration for that scheduling is employees may be assigned to an on-call rotation to ensure fair and equitable distribution of the duty. All right, so the employee responsibilities during on-call. Availability is when on call, employees should be available and reachable by personal phone or company mobile device at all times during the scheduled period. The response time is upon receiving a call, the employee must acknowledge the request and if necessary, be prepared to respond and report to the designated work site within 60 minutes. This response time may vary depending on the specific job requirements. The restrictions with that is employees on call should remain in a reasonable radius from their workplace that would allow them to respond within the response time under normal circumstances. All work performed while on call, whether remote or on site, must be properly tracked and reported. So then we pick the compensated versus not compensated. Response time that is compensable is if a response is required, all time spent performing work-related tasks will be paid. This includes remote work, time spent addressing issues via phone or computer, travel time, which is time spent traveling to a job site, and on-site work, which is time spent performing work at the company premises or other location. We will require documentation. It says employees are responsible for accurately and promptly documenting all hours worked while on call to include a detailed summary of the work performed. So like I said, they are like in kind. It's just whether we compensate simply for being on call or not.
Hey, Brett, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So with the compensation that you were just speaking of, when you receive a task and you go and complete that task and finish it, those hours, are they in lieu of the compensated time that that we'll have for being on call? Or is that once you meet a threshold? The reason I'm asking is in the past, if we didn't meet the 2 hours for the 12 hours that we're being paid on call, if we got called out and it was a 30-minute call, it didn't go on top of our 2 hours. It was expected that it was within that 2 hours that they paid you, so it wasn't on top of. So can you describe that a little better for me?
I think you just did. In my mind, if you get called out and it takes you 30 minutes to do your job, if it's under that 2 hour threshold, I mean, that's what it is. You're still getting the 2 hours, even though you only worked for 30 minutes. But it wouldn't be 2.5 hours, an extra 30 minutes just because you got called out.
If you choose compensable, the hours worked have to be in excess of the on-call hours that you're already being paid for.
Can you repeat that, please?
It would be in excess.
Okay, so it'd be in addition to the on-call hours that you would be paid.
No. You would have to work in excess of the 2 hours.
Okay.
Well, what's your thoughts here?
I mean, reading through it, I guess I'm okay if we go with option B.
Okay, to have a set rate. I mean, it makes sense to me. Like,
Correct.
we're not restricting them. They have their life outside of work. It's not like they gotta sit and wait for their phone to ring so they can come to work. They just are responsible to respond within 60 minutes, right? With that, I think there should be some compensation involved with it.
Well, I think I'm thinking option B is probably the one I would go with. I kind of think there should be some compensation for it. And I'm glad that we'll actually have the policy in play now, so there's not any confusion about the sort of things, because we've ran into this problem like 2 or 3 times now. Where we needed to figure out what the policy is and we don't have a policy. So I'm just glad that we're getting a policy. I think it's fine. I'd probably lean more towards B.
Okay, so if you guys like B, we'll just need a motion to adopt the on-call policy, noting there will be compensation for on-call duty. Does that work for you, Wendy? Okay.
Okay, I will make a motion to adopt, policy B. Brett, what else did you want me?
No, that works. I
Okay.
think we've identified the difference between the
Yeah.
two, so I like clean.
I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion and a second to adopt on-call policy letter B. Any questions on that discussion? Steven, you good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that. That's the one I was leaning towards as well.
Okay, we'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion carries. And last, we got our consent agenda. Oops, second to last. You guys look through all that. If that looks good to you, we'll need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion on that? Okay, we'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion carries, and we are on to public comment. Anybody have anything they want to talk about related to the agenda or last meeting's agenda? Pretty quiet. Guess we need a, yes, ma'am. Nothing yet. I know Dan's working on something with them, but I haven't heard anything from Dan yet.
They called about the flagpole. Surprisingly, they're gonna put a, what do you call it, where they, screw the flagpole in? They were gonna put the cement part
Like
in
a,
this year.
like a helical pile? Or
Sorry.
that, like a helical pile, is that what they're putting in? Or are they putting in a sonotube and pouring cement?
So then when they got the pole, they could actually just put it up, but, okay, well, just let me know.
I will,
if you find out any more about that. So I can let her know.
okay. All right, guys, I think that's a wrap. We'll need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. We'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 All right, motion carries and we are adjourned at 7:31 PM.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Liz.
Liz.